Hi, the objective for this presentation is to introduce you to Jenkins, the continuous integration tool. By the end of it, you will learn how easy it is to configure the process of continuous integration and to schedule a continuous integration build for your J2EE web applications by using Jenkins. For this purpose, we'll be using a simple J2EE web application that has a servlet and a few application classes, and this J2EE web application uses Ant and JUnit for build and test automation. Deploy is the main target, which deploys this WAR file onto the Tomcat web container. It in turn uses the other targets, as you can see here, from the Ant build script. The compile compiles your application classes. The compile test compiles all your JUnits, and then the jar targets builds the jar file from your application classes if your tests pass, and then the var target builds the var file, and the deploy target deploys it to Tomcat. Now let's use this Ant script to come up with our first Jenkins project. Jenkins in turn is also a J2EE web application, and you download the var file by going to the Jenkins website, and then you deploy this web archive Jenkins web archive file onto the containers like Tomcat in my case. And once deployed, you can access Jenkins from the browser by going to the appropriate URL, which in my case is localhost 8080/Jenkins, the web context root for the Jenkins web application. We start off by creating a new job, new Jenkins project. Let's say bits web app, and we choose the build a freestyle software project. Once you hit the OK button, Jenkins provides you with all the different options to configure continuous integration for this particular project, starting from source code management, which is the version control system. In our case, I am skipping this part for simplicity reasons, but in real time you will be pulling your code off either ClearCase or CVS or any other version control system, and you will be selecting the appropriate version control system here and then pointing it to the folder structure on your machine. But in my case, I'll straight away go to the build step, and since we are using Ant, I will say invoke Ant, click on the advanced button. We need the path to our Ant build script, so I am grabbing the path of my J2EE web application on the file system, and then build.xml is the name of the build file, and the target which we want to be invoked is the deploy target. So we are telling Jenkins that every time this build is run, this is the Ant file it should use, and it should invoke the deploy target. Now we can schedule the build frequency by going to the build triggers tab and selecting the build periodically. And once I click on the help button here, you will see the options. If you are familiar with the cron tab or the cron jobs on Unix and Linux, this syntax should not be new for you. It uses 5 fields to schedule the build task, the frequency of the build. The first field is the minute field. It tells when within an hour, when on which minute should this build be run, and then the hour field, which tells the hour of the day of the month, and then the month itself, and then the day of the week. For example, if I say 59, and we can also use wildcards here, so if I use star, 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 and star, that means this build will be run once every 1 hour, the 59th minute or the 60th minute of every 1 hour, because it starts from 0. And then star means every hour, every month, and every day of the week. Once I hit save, we are done. We have created our first Jenkins project, and we have automated the continuous integration for this particular J2EE web application we have on hand. If you go back to the dashboard, you can see that this is the Jenkins project, which runs once every 1 hour, or we can also click on the schedule a build button here to force a build right now, and there will be a build on the build queue. As you can see, you can click on it and then look at the console output for this build. And as you can see, it runs all the different ant tasks within the script we have provided it with, and then it deploys our web application onto Apache Tomcat. It's that easy to create continuous integration process for your J2W applications using Jenkins. I'll go back to the project now and I'll show you how to configure email notifications. There are several other options here which you can play around with. And if you want to configure email notifications, you select this at the end and you will add the recipients, let's say a developer group within your organization to which the emails has to be sent to, and then you hit save. But for this to work, once again you have to go back to manage Jenkins and you have to configure your Jenkins system to be aware of the email server that it can use. As you can see, this is the system level configuration for your Jenkins, where you can configure your JDK, you can configure your Ant, Maven, depending on the tools you use in your development environment, you can configure all that here. And for the email notification, this is where you provide the SMTP server you should be using, and then the email suffix and all that wonderful information. Jenkins by default pulls the JDK and Ant information or any other tool information from the path variable of your system. So in my case, it's picking the JDK and Ant from the path environment variable for my Windows. But you can always override it by adding the JDK and Ant here. So to summarize, now you know how easy it is to configure continuous integration using Jenkins, and also how to schedule a Jenkins build for your J2W web applications. Follow the instructions on the blog post. I have uploaded the project, this J2W web application project, and I have provided you with a link where you can download this project, and also I have instructions for how to download Jenkins and install it onto Tomcat. Try it out and send your questions and feedback to bharatsblog@gmail.com. Until the next session, keep sharing and learning. Thanks for watching.